we had David,
So
Paul,
we're gonna
Lisa,
do.
Well, we have to do everything
on one person.
And so what
Don't you
we're
love
gonna
that?
do is.
You don't know.
We need to get that done, and we.
No,
it's already-
You
it's
should,
already done.
I think she's amazing. I don't think I saw you this week. Maybe Tuesday.
Renee,
How you doing, David?
good to see you, Renee.
Hi, Paul.
Okay, can I now see Renee?
Yes.
Public phone.
That was a big,
No, mine. Yeah, I got somebody better than me.
Okay.
I heard him introduce y'all with email.
Perfect. Okay, we have,
Afternoon.
yes. Okay, we have a quorum, Karen's here. So we have President Karen Raymond, David Gallo, David Kirstein, Paul Flower, and on the Zoom call, Elisa Speranza. Chuck Morris and Neil Anderson unfortunately had other commitments for this day that was changed. We changed this date because of the hurricane. So, but I have had certain conversations with them and gotten some comments from them. So if we could call the meeting to order, and I guess the first item is to approve the agenda. So if I could have a motion.
So
moved.
Second.
Second. Any of, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passed. And then approve, second on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I have one comment about the minutes, and which and it has to do with the $10 million that we reallocated to the West Power Complex. And in the minutes, it said that our motion stated that money would be held for the West Power Complex until all the money was received from the city. But I believe what the motion was that it would be held until we were sure there was no, in contingency, until we were sure that there would not be a need for other funds to complete that complex. That was something that we committed to the city council. So
I would just reallocate down to the contingency line item would still be in the power complex for our purposes, thinking of it that way.
okay, so it would, what you're effectively saying is it's going to be allocated to the project until you get the city money, which I assume you've gotten because they sold the bonds. So, okay. And when you reallocate it, you're simply putting into a contingency line, but it will stay there until there's clearly no need for more funding to complete the project.
Right.
Okay.
Instead of 1420 to 7.
May I ask a question, because it's a little bit something what Paul said, when you say you have the city money, you literally have a transfer in your account, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that is my comment, is that explanation okay with you? Does anybody else have any comments on the minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion contingent upon your clarification.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
So that passes. Okay. The quarterly report. Again, all of this has been sent to all the members a few days ago. I had one comment that came back on the quarterly report, not what's in it, but just the format of it. And I guess we could, since I don't have any comment about what's in it, perhaps I could ask if there's anybody else does, and if they don't have any comments, we can pass it, but then I'd like to have a discussion on the format for the future.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the quarterly report has been approved. There is, I got one member commented to me that basically our quarterly report, it starts from the beginning and we add to it each quarter. And they wondered whether or not that's a correct way to do it because it's not clear what we're adding. So don't have I'd just like to open it up to the floor to see if anybody has any comment on that. Rick, how you doing? Our thoughts on that, or would, I'm happy to entertain thoughts later on, or whether certain board has any thoughts. David?
I just have a question with regard to the presentation. I see the portions of it are highlighted in yellow. Is that the supplement?
That's basically what, I took that as being what we've supplemented in our report, the highlighted yellow. Is that correct?
What's highlighted in yellow is what is relevant to the current quarter, so.
That's
yeah.
what.
Yeah, so it's the
that was
newest
his-
addition to the.
That was his question. So I'm not saying that this format's wrong. It's just somebody questioned whether it's the right thing for us to do, or should we reformat it so people, and maybe just highlighting it in yellow is the right way to do it, because people are rereading the same thing. Does anybody have any comments on that?
I personally prefer the highlighting. It seems to me that it reflects continuity and you can easily recognize the changes in the prior report.
So you're satisfied as is if we highlight it?
Yeah, and it was me who complained about it, not complained, but I just thought it was a little confusing as time goes on and it gets longer and longer. But I think the highlighting, as long as it's noted, would be fine.
Well, perhaps, Paul, what you should do is just somewhere in the first highlighted area, have a little asterisk and explain that reflects a change from the prior report.
Right.
Okay. And so somebody could read it and not read it.
At the beginning, I'm happy to highlight it as well, but I'd say under the IAB continues to monitor the fair share agreement collections. The highlighted sections below are the portions of the report pertaining to the second quarter.
Okay.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. We'll keep that, just make sure it's clear. All right, going on to the presentations. First is the fair share agreement financial update from the city of New Orleans.
Thank you. We can just begin with the financial updates as usual. You should see that collections are on track pretty much to match exactly as we had estimated. So we should expect somewhere around 23 million altogether to Sewage and Water Board over the course of the 2024 fiscal year, and then about 5.75 to DPW. I don't think that there should be anything incredibly out of the ordinary. You'll see that obviously the July collections, as reported, seem a little off. There's two primary reasons for that. The city has recently made a major change to the software that we use for accounting for revenue collections. We are now in September still in the process of working out all of the kinks and making sure that we're getting accurate numbers. So those are the numbers that are accurate as of today. They will likely be revised, or more likely the August collections will reflect any additional collections that should have come in July but were unaccounted for due to our accounting changes.
July and August are low months, but that's really low.
Yes, exactly.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, if you're looking across the tabs here, you'll see that they're not entirely off from the others, but you'll see that the overall like STR collections are
It's way
far
down.
down.
Yeah. And then I was going to ask that question. So Lost Penny is down somewhat, but STR is way down. Do you think that has to do with the way your information you actually got from the program, and there's going to be some corrections upward?
That's what revenue is informing, yeah. So because I work with a few other tax collections throughout the city, including some sales taxes, and we're having to deal with the same thing, where they're still working through the kinks in how to account for collections with the change in software. So we're not getting necessarily up to date, but we will get updated numbers soon.
So I assume that when you spoke earlier and you provided your best estimate of projection for the current year, that assumes that there's an adjustment to these figures.
Yes, and as I said, that will be reflected most likely in the August numbers, since those collections will have come in for August once they're actually accounted for. again, we're seeing everything kind of in place. We should see revenue exactly pretty much as expected. Again, the anomaly in the SDR collections is just due to some changes in the software that we're using for accounting there.
Okay.
As I'm sure you're all aware, we had BGR issued a report on September 5th regarding the fair share. It was largely positive regarding everything. Key findings being that the fair share deal is actually fulfilling the promises that we negotiated through the state. The recurring revenue is really truly being used for these essential infrastructure improvements, as I know everyone in this room is aware. We have, I'm not sure that I really need to go over all these points. I think pretty much everyone in this room is well aware of the positive outcomes of this agreement and the revenue itself. That this board here has been providing very effective oversight. There were some recommendations regarding how we word the allocations to make sure moving forward that there's no misinterpretation, as well. Kind of outside of these bullet points, I know that there were some recommendations as far as oversight and improving the reporting for revenue and expenditures across the board, but specifically in the city. So,
Is the city considering changing the 75-25 split or no?
So my understanding is yes at the moment, but I really don't have anything to report there specifically. But I think Rick.
Yes, they are considering it, giving it to the sewage and water board for drainage system cleaning.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can probably move on from there. And then as far as the project update, I believe probably Rick will be better able to provide some updates on where we are with the DDE project specifically, and then the plans for dealing with Super Bowl. Right?
So this project, the final plans are in our shop. We've also provided them to the DD's engineer for their review. Once they are complete and any comments received and adjusted, we'll get the signed and sealed drawings. We'll go to bid, but the construction will not start until after Mardi Gras 25.
Okay, so at one time they talked about starting before and then stopping. That didn't, so y'all are gonna go past Mardi Gras?
It was because some delays in the final plans. We just
But
couldn't
actually
get it
worked out.
together.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that because I asked a question about it before, but I see here in the presentation timeline, you're still showing that the construction is estimated to begin at the end of 2024. Was that just simply hadn't been updated?
That's right. It's going to start in March of 25, right after Mardi Gras.
Good, I think that's a better, yeah, excellent.
I have one question, it's kind of off subject, but not fully. Part of this is to redo drainage lines and also install permeable pavement. Is that correct?
Permeable pavers is what we're going to use, and not the pavement.
Because my next question was, isn't there a maintenance issue with
There is,
pavement?
and there's an issue with the work that was done on Notre Dame. It's disintegrating, so we believe the wrong mix was used, but it's not working out as it should. So we added the pavers to the green infrastructure standard plans, and that's what we're going to use.
And you think that'll be less maintenance costs? It's just
It
a matter
will.
of keeping the, yeah.
It actually has wider openings so that the cleaning doesn't have to occur as often.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
I think the remainder of the slides dealing with the DDE drainage, just kind of go over some of those specifics. So if we can move forward. Going, I believe.
All of that was resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think we just updated here what the appropriations from the IMF have been. The biggest ones in terms of DPW, I think Rick can speak to more specifically where that money's going to, but there's three main things that you see outlined there.
Yeah, so the IMF funds are being used to do the sidewalk improvements in the downtown area and in the French Quarter right now. We also continue to use the money for the streetlight repair contract and for DPW's sign and signal shop materials and staffing. And then it also pays for staffing in the streets maintenance division.
Yeah, the staffing pieces are covered in the next slide. We move on. And then finally, just an update on where we are with the catch basin cleanouts, which are not funded out of IMAP, but we're funded out of ARPA. We covered this at the last meeting. We made some significant progress since then. I think actually above and beyond what we had originally estimated and what we reported in that last meeting. So you'll see the figures here, but you know, in between being completed and under review, we're well at about 85% of that work being completed. And in terms of the overall amount of debris removed, so far, we're about 250,000 pounds above what we had estimated, so.
So if I could ask a few questions, others might have. As I recall, your goal was to do about maybe a little bit less than 7,000 catch basins. Is that not correct when you first started, or do I have
I
that?
thought it was 7,200, Paul, but
It
was, but it ends up being what's associated with the drain line. So there was 750,000 linear feet of drain line and its associated catch base.
Gotcha.
So it's
So that's
a unit
majority of
unit
it.
price contract, is that, or is it a?
It is a unit price contract, and it came in under the $10 million budget, so we were able to change order the remaining dollars in, so the number of catch basins and the linear feet of pipe will go up slightly.
Gotcha.
And the work will continue on, instead of ending in October, it will go on till November.
Okay.
So if, it seems like a good way to put it would be, we've done better than we hoped for.
Yes.
Okay, now that could probably be either the crews were more efficient, or maybe it's not quite as bad as we thought. Either one of those.
Well, the unit really came down to the unit prices. They were less than what was estimated, and that's why there was $1.5 million left on the table. That
Okay,
we
so
were
you had
able
more money
change
to
over.
do more.
And
Yes.
if the debris removed up, that would say that they were worse than they were.
Worse.
I mean, that's just what, I happen to be in the business. So
You got a good point, yeah. Always nice to have a plumber on board.
I don't have to plug, I will say.
That's a lot of time.
So, one of the things, so this is sometime in the near future, going to go over to the Surge and Water Board, I guess. Is this helpful in collecting data of what costs are
Yes.
to help the Surge and Water Board then
I
project?
think it can help them in cost, it can help them in the time it takes to do neighborhoods, all of those things. And of course, it helps because these are the worst areas. So now it should just get better from here.
I would add anecdotally, in the wake of Francine, I mean, there were flooding issues, but I mean, I look at the number of reported structures, very, very minimal. And I know that DPW is up Broadmoor, for instance. I got no complaints out of Broadmoor, which is historically, that's not to say this couldn't be there. If you know of it, please let me know. But I know you all have focused on that area, and I think the system performed very, very well.
Yeah, and we've checked after major rain events, and the 311 calls were down in all the neighborhoods that had been completed prior to that. So it is working.
That's great news. Are there any other questions on this particular slide?
When there was you guys set the priority in certain areas that had experienced flooding before, is that how you decided which?
Two methods, the 311 calls and its concentration. And then the second, a map was created with flood depths. And so those two things were overlapped, and that's how the neighborhoods were selected.
May I ask one question about the, catch basin clean out? I understand that for a variety of reasons, we've been unable to utilize the vacuum trucks owned by the city. If that were available, would it facilitate matters?
We use 3 of them every day.
Oh, you are now?
Yeah, we have 3 in-house crews that go out every day.
Well, that's great. Yeah. Thank you.
There's 5 that operate, and the Sewage and Water Board will get all of them when the changeover takes place.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Okay. Well, I guess we might have asked the question. Are there any other questions? Okay.
I'll
Dave,
start,
right.
we'll pass it on down. So apologies, Hassan isn't available today, but you've got the team here, myself, Becca Johnson, Caitlin, and Gray. And starting with paving, IAB has been a critical part of reducing our backlog. You can see just graphically what it looks like going from 3,000 paving work orders in late 2023. We're at 511 as of this morning. The average has gone from 100 to just about 50 days. And it would be lower than that, except we had some really old paving work orders that shifted over because they were part of either CERB or JIR work that was taking longer, and so we got those taken care of. So goal is by the end of the year, we're not gonna be so much concerned with the number of open paving work orders as I am the average to completion. We want to be 2 to 4 weeks from when we make a hole to when we fill. So that's where we're at today with that, and I'll hand it back to talk through the smart meter.
Yes, so this is our installation dashboard, which is live on our website. You can see that all of the blue dots are where installations have been completed. All of the yellow dots means that an installation is scheduled within the next 3 to 3.5 months. We do get a lot of calls about this. It's just another way that we're communicating to customers we're going to be in your neighborhood. We have actually replaced over 48,000 meters as of this morning, so we're continuing to be on pace. Of course, we had a schedule impact with all of the rain that came along with Francine, but historically speaking, in cooler months, pace picks up significantly. We do continue to remain on track to install approximately half of our meters by year end, but of course, weather can always impact, so we're keeping a close eye on that. Go to the next slide. One of the biggest things that comes with this technology is what comes after you see that accurate usage. And what we're finding is that customers really don't understand the way that they're using water. And so what's been a big push with this project is how do we communicate that effectively to customers so that they really understand what it means and how their behaviors can impact eventually their bill. So we have participated in over 50 neighborhood association meetings. We continue with those pushes to have those conversations with customers. We do send out continuous usage alerts to customers. The trigger that we use is 4 gallons per hour for 48 hours. So if that 4 gallon per hour leak continued throughout the entire month, it would cost the customer about $40 on their bill.
You mean 4 gallons per hour on a continuous basis over 48 hours?
Correct.
Okay, I understand.
Because there's some times that you're going to use continuous usage, right? Let's say you're filling up a pool after it's really hot, things like that. So we wanted to make sure before we notified a customer to spring into action that it made financial sense for them. We have had success with this program. We've had over 40% of customers have repaired the leak within 2 weeks of getting that letter. And it saved the customers on average $104 per bill. You know, some of the metrics that we talk with customers on a daily basis about are your most common leaks. So leaky faucets, believe it or not, can add up pretty quickly, especially those outdoor ones that you're not really seeing because they're kind of tucked under the siding. A leaky toilet is your most common leak that exists. Those toilet flappers are generally only good for 2 years. So if you don't remember changing it, it's probably leaking. It's an easy test. Our customers like to hear, all you have to just put food coloring in the back of your toilet. If you see that color in the bowl, it's leaking. So it's really easy, $5 fix for customers. And then the biggest one that we have, especially with some of our larger homes and businesses, is irrigation. So this is a pretty small example for irrigation. Customers can use anywhere between 750 gallons per hour up to 1,500 gallons per hour. It depends on how long that setting is. So you can see it can have a really significant impact on people's bill. We do have the option to install irrigation meters. It does come with a cost, but usually that cost offsets quicker than customers realize. So we're using these metrics, we're handing them out. We really want people to understand some of these conservation tips and tricks. We also have a lot of new job opportunities that are coming with this technology now that we're able to use this data in a different way. So we did partner with Job One to hire some entry-level smart meter technicians. We did invite other groups throughout the board as well for those entry-level positions to up those applicant numbers. We did have 86 attendees, and there were applicants across the board for all the departments. These are new job series that we've stood up as of today to support the technology. We know a few more are coming. These are data analysts, project managers, the technicians, and then our utility customer service managers. These are your key account representatives. So these are your one-on-one, with, your larger customers. We also have some updates on our lead service line replacement.
Before you get off with that, one question on the small meters. Somewhere in there it said that the webpage will go online this fall. Does that mean October, November? Do you know?
It's online to go October. So we're to go up on it in October is the cutover plan. So we've completed final testing and we're doing all of our training throughout our groups right now this weekend.
Thanks.
So our lead service line replacement program, I know we talked in detail about all the changes coming with the regulations last month. So we do have that $84 million in state revolving funds. That loan is supposed to close this quarter. We also have the first requirement from the changes in the law, which is the service line inventory has to be made publicly available to all residents. So we will have that inventory live before October 16th. It shows what we anticipate or what we know for service line material on the public side as well as the private side. And it will have unknowns. So if we do not have a record at that location, it will have an unknown with an assigned probability of what we think the material may be based on a variety of factors. We do also have some procurements coming up with this program. So the first one is a gap until we have the bigger program in place, but it's for investigations, so that potholing effort and replacements, and the first customers are going to be schools and daycares because lead affects younger children and pregnant women more than the rest of the population. The next procurement coming up is going to be for a program manager to help us manage the lead service line replacement program and what that program will look like over the next 30 years. Caitlin for power.
Do we have a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November to allow you to use federal public money, because lead lines on the private side of the meeting?
No, we do not.
It's not on the ballot. Then it's a constitutional
Yeah,
amendment.
the reason, if I may, the law that passed stated it needs to go on the ballot, right? And they didn't, well, first of all,
They didn't do it.
they were gonna do the
time.
special constitutional convention, so that didn't happen. So it would have to be addressed during the next, there may be a special session in November. I don't know if they're only gonna deal with the taxes, but during another convening of the legislature, would they address getting it on the ballot for a constitutional amendment?
Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
Power. I can handle this slide in the next one. So currently, post-Francine, we have 67.5 megawatts of power available. I would be remiss if I did not point out that while we only need 44, and this puts us in the green, that is spread across 10 different sources of power, ranging in age from 1908 to 2017. And the issue that we had during Francine was with the frequency changers, which are from 2017. So,
EMDs, just.
excuse me, EMDs. Thank you, with the EMDs. So,
Wait, you said you had an issue with a frequency changer that's as young as 2017?
no, the EMDs, which were from 2017, excuse me. Thank you. So, again, just highlighting the importance of the power complex project that Caitlin's going to talk about here in a minute. Not only is it going to provide 66 megawatts of power, but it's going to do it through one source. It's going to make life so much more efficient and simple for us. So the bad news is you've got a lot of power spread across a bunch of different sources. The good news is during Francine, turbines 4, 5, and 6 ran well, carried load throughout the entire event, and we did not have any significant issues with any of those pieces.
So the issue was strictly with the DMVs. when necessary to supplement 4, 5, and 6.
That's correct, yeah. Yep, and again, the challenge being you've got specific pumps lined up on different pieces of equipment, so if you lose one piece, you have to shift it.
There was some discussion about the decision because everybody was worried about 4. Not sure why. It was only 1915 when you bought it, but
Right.
so you made a decision to use the DMVs, and you had trouble with the DMVs, and then you put 4 on.
4 was actually in use with other pumps. We tried bringing the EMPs back online. They tripped off due to a trip with an auxiliary generator. There's a generator that supplies power to all 5 so that they can run. When that tripped offline, we tried bringing the EMDs back. They ran for a short period of time, dropped off again, and rather than try a second time, we moved those pumps over to turbine 4, which was able to carry.
So I think just changing the pump. Well, when you moved it over to 4, what happened to the pumps that you moved it?
So that's part of the challenge is when you switch power sources, it's not as simple as, okay, we're just gonna flip a switch and throw a pump on. You have to clear the bus, we call it, which means you have to actually have to take a pump offline or take pumps offline, clear the bus, and then reload them. And so.
It's still raining all the time.
That's right, so we live and die in 15-minute increments. I mean, we were within, as a region, within 30 minutes of being in the clear, and then it stalled out over the lake a little bit, and.
Well, that does beg the question, how do you stop the rain while you're doing that?
Yeah, well, you do the best you can, but you're at the mercy of the Almighty. So that, again, an illustration of even when you've got a ton of power, that power complex is going to simplify things, not just add power, but make it so much simpler. So really, really excited about that.
Let me ask this, what was the root cause of the failure of the EMDs?
So is that auxiliary generator tripping offline, and it had something to do with our automatic transfer switch between the different, so you got 5 different EMDs, and when they work together in concert, it's really cool. They'll balance each other, they'll run together, but there's all these moving parts and mechanical pieces.
So the EMDs didn't fail per se.
It was associated components within that system. Good question. Next slide. Pump and power status dashboard. We have 90 of 97 pumps available. The bulk of those larger pumps are in New Orleans East, and we do anticipate getting at least one of those back here in October. Pumps 3 and 4 at DPS 14. We should also be able to get those back early next year, certainly in time for storm season next year. And then DPS 6 has 1 big pump out of service. That should be done here within the next 4 to 6 weeks, I think. Xylem's coming back out.
That's correct, and I apologize, I need to make a correction to this slide. It's not 16, it's returning service at 6, or DPS 6 is the second pump that's returning to service in October.
Right.
It's an error on that slide.
So one, during the discussions during the hurricane, so all the stuff in New Orleans East is not served by the West Power Complex.
That's correct.
Some of those have old, unreliable generators. So I think it's important for us to focus in on educating the public to that, but also to focus on seeing if we can get those, if there's a funding source to get those. But I'd hate for the West Power Complex to come on, everybody's happy, and then the pump station in New Orleans East flood a bunch of people. That would be a horrific thing for all of us.
Hit the nail on the head, you're absolutely.
You're right, David. So the public has to understand that's not on this power source.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and Algiers to a large degree as well.
Yeah.
Even though it's separate, they have backup generators. And at this point, DPS 14, the house generator's out. We've got a backup to the backup there, but I'd really prefer to have that house generator replaced. 10, is that the Army Corps? 10, we're going to have the Army Corps help us. We are in discussions with Entergy about a replacement generator for 14. But yeah, your point is well made, and that needs to be educated.
I've even talked to people about it and explained it, but when they heard about a failure in New Orleans East, they said, you're going to solve that by us. And no, and then it takes a whole other conversation. It's very, very hard to understand all of this. I mean, we happen to be here all the time, but for the general public, I feel it's a very difficult education process.
Well, and the other thing, I got the question on Tuesday as well. The power complex will address, this drainage power in the old part of the city. The 34 million that we've been talking about will provide support for the potable water system. But as far as the sewer system goes, it will power one pump, but that's really all that's ever been anticipated to handle was one, I know it's a big pump and a big sewer station.
But all your sewer pump stations are really relied on other generators.
Either on energy with a backup generator on site or a backup diesel pump.
Do all your lift stations have a backup generator?
Not all of them. There's about a quarter of them have a backup generator. If you start getting more than that, fueling them and operating gets to be pretty unwieldy. So you want to have them in specific locations and then try to cascade.
They have to be manually turned on, or do they have an ATS?
Some of them may have ATSs, many of them do have to be manually operated. But the good news with the sewer is we typically have some time to be able to handle that. The issue we had this last time was at Station D, so we have two really big stations. We got 84, most of which are fairly small. We have two really big stations. The one where we had the issue was Station D, which is Florida and Peoples. And that we were able to bring in two 12-inch rental pumps, and then the third house pump has got us to where we're keeping up. We're only running two of the pumps right now.
Well, you referred to the fact that there's a difficulty in fueling the generator. Are those generators diesel powered or are they natural gas powered?
Those are diesel.
Diesel.
Do we have any natural gas?
We have one location that has an option to type gas, but yes.
So you gotta replace that.
Replace fuel.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, there's all kinds of discussions about natural gas, is how reliable a source is during a storm. So I think, like, hospitals have to have diesel, they can't have natural gas. So that discussion is an unresolved engineering. So I would.
But you remember during Katrina, the natural gas system did not fail, did it?
It did not. But just recently in one of the hurricane areas, I forget what parish, they had so many generators running, they ran out of natural gas pressure, which caused all kinds of issues, just to be.
I did read that. I didn't realize that's what it was.
Yeah. So in addition of all people putting in all these, they didn't have enough natural gas.
Nobody had generators for Katrina.
Yeah.
That's why there was plenty of gas.
That's right.
It's a whole different animal today.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry.
No worries, this is a very good discussion. Any other questions on the drainage pump status or pumps and power? All right, Caitlin, I'll turn it over to you to talk through the power complex project, where we're at, where we're going.
Yeah, so really excited to share a couple of photos for y'all. We do have a site overview. This was in July, when we first started preparing for this presentation. But you can see we've got a lot of progress done. The substation there is in the top part, and then in the bottom part you see the foundations for the frequency changer, the first of which was actually brought in August, and that's the photo on the right. So ultimately we'll have 3 of these. You can see they're very large, like 60 feet long at least, kind of 2 components they've had to put together. And so obviously they're up high on foundations, but we're really excited that we've got one online. We'll be bringing another one on, not online, but on site, excuse me. And then the turbine generator is actually all, like 21 truckloads of that are supposed to come in starting also later this fall. So we're really making, things are really coming together quickly on the site construction. This is a slide we've shown in the past, just showing how the funds that have been allocated through the Fairshine line items have been addressed and or have been allocated. And then just the note at the bottom, that 10 million, 8 million city funds was already received, and it sounds like great, even since we prepared this, we've since received the rest of it. So that was great. Of course, the big news the last couple of weeks is the City Council, through their partnership, committing to the match funds to allow us to have access to the DOE grant that is state of Louisiana. The Department of Natural Resources has received funding through what's called their Louisiana Hero program. And so that's Louisiana Hubs for Resilient Energy Operations. And that's a $250 million program from DOE, their grid resilience program. This is a new program. I mean, this is part of the IJA funding, I believe. And so this is a new program the state is setting up. Our application and related activities was around $34 million, and it was that matching funds that the city was able to announce. And I think some of the expectation is that some of these fair share funds, which you spoke to, will be a part of that.
So 3 million of that was, of those 17 matching was supposed to be fair share funds. Do you need something on that from us, or is you going to take that out of the contingency, or?
Yeah, I think we'd like to get the updated numbers and have everything approved in the grant, and then we'd be able to circle back to the IAB to say, this is.
Next meeting.
10 million is from DPW, by the way.
Thank you, Rick.
And that 13 million you mentioned, that was from DPW too.
Was there a lot of blood on the table on that one?
Well, that's 2 street projects that went, see you later.
Well, your councilman is saying that it's coming, you did mention that it was coming out of DPW.
That's exactly where it came from.
Well, that's kind of like moving it from Peter to pay Paul.
I guess we need the water to drain to see the street at least.
And why don't we take the street projects away from whatever legislator didn't vote for? What do you say?
That's fine with me.
I didn't realize that. Well, that's really important to know.
I didn't know it, but I assumed it, to be honest with you. I just kind of figured that was gonna happen.
So 3 from fair share, 10 from DPW, where's the other 4?
From capital projects.
Okay, next slide, I was gonna briefly highlight on the financials, IMF fund for sewage water board. Our revenues to date was 70.8 million. That's through June numbers. And total expenses to date, 27.9 million. So we have allocated 54.2 million. So we continue to move along with this project. This past quarter was primarily 2.5 million paving consumed and 683,000 on the power complex, various contracts. So continue to appreciate the support financially and the consistency. So that's on the financials. And the next slide has the one allocation request that we've been talking about a little bit. So this is a 5.5 million new allocation for critical water and sewer network repairs. And we talked about a split between 3 different contracts, O&M and capital. And these, similar to paving, address immediate backlog of open work orders. They deal with the situation with large projects that consume a lot of an annual budget, roughly between 5 to 10 million of water and sewer that we already use our system funds to budget for, but we do a large project like this LaSalle and Poydras, and some of that, a lot of that gets consumed, so then we need to replenish that with funds to keep moving on other work orders.
I'm wondering if you could help me a little bit, because the way this was originally explained to me that you might be asking for this funding was that it was related to lead lines as you were installing the smart meter program, or leaks or something that you want. So this reads to me a little bit differently than what I expected. It's no problem. I just want to try and understand it. So when you say water O&M contract, what do you mean by that?
With water O&M, so this would not be related specifically to lead lines. So this is more repairs to water main breaks, a hydrant gets knocked
Are
over.
these things that you're finding as you're installing the smart meter, or they're totally unrelated?
No, it would be independent of that.
And all right, so this is water mains that you need to try and fix, and you're trying to spend $2 million on it. I mean, somebody told me we had 400 miles of leaking water mains, but.
Well, I don't know if we have 400 miles of leaking water mains. We have 500 miles that are over 100 years old, and most of the system is 50 years old or more. So the next slide that we've got actually looks at the breakout of work orders. And so what we're really trying to do with the water O&M and the water capital is, as you can see, we had a really dry
year, last year, that that soil settlement
So
created
these
a
are
lot of
big,
breaks.
big breaks, these are breaks where you
on the-
actually protruded
yeah.
into the, gotcha.
On the capital side, that leak at the HOV lane that was going on for the better part of a decade.
Yes.
That's actually a leak under the railroad tracks that's running, it's a casing. It's running through the casing and it just presents at the HOV lane. So in order to address that, we're lining the whole 300-foot stretch. So that'll be there for the next 100 years once it's lined, because we can't find the point repairs. But that's a big repair. It's been out there for a long time. We just need to nip it in the bud and be done with it. But we can't just do that. There are other things other water main breaks, we see them around town. We need to be able to continue to do work, similar to the paving. When resources are applied, the backlog goes down, the work gets done. We need to do the same thing with water.
Are there a number of those leaks that have, I don't know, are some older than others and they just continue to get worse, or is that what you're trying to address with this one?
Yeah, we do want to address the oldest and the biggest. So there's the HOV lane, there was the leak across from from the train station at LaSalle and Poydras, or no, Loyola and Calliope. There was that one at Loyola and Calliope that was filling the parking lot. It was actually 3 different leaks. We got that one fixed. There was a 30-inch valve that had been leaking for the better part of a decade, and that's something that we've fixed. So it is starting with those bigger, older leaks, but it takes resources to be able to do that. We were talking earlier about our water production. Somewhere between 30 and 50% being lost to leaks. We've got to cut that back.
And the sad part is that if you don't do the smaller ones, they become bigger ones
They
later.
become bigger
That's,
ones,
you know,
exactly.
that's the
They,
struggle.
it cascades, you're absolutely right.
And what is the water capital project that I just missed that?
So water O&M, it's a $2 million request. Water capital is $2 million on the previous slide. If we go
Right, I know that,
Okay,
but
I'm sorry.
what is the capital project? Or is that part of what you listed?
So the capital is that HOV lane repair.
Thank you.
That's the $2
Okay, I'm
million.
sorry.
It's a single $2 million project, but we do have many other capital type projects.
Okay, at this particular point, can we,
Do a motion to
yeah,
approve?
well, does anybody have any questions? Yes, I would like a motion.
I'll move to approve the $5.5 million request.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Very good. So that was, we kind of talked through the next slide, just an illustration of, when resources are applied, we're able to knock the backlog down. So we really appreciate IAB's partnership on the paving, on the water and the sewer. With that concludes our presentation.
Can I ask one question about the current, the 100 cuts, the street cuts?
Yes, please.
So you're down to 500, but 50 days to do it. Are those two related? In other words, you have to get the 500 down to 200 to get the 50 days down to 14 or 28 days, or is there something else going there?
There's a balance that goes with it, and like I mentioned before, we need to rerun those numbers here probably next week or the first part of October, because a lot of those, we had a number of work orders that were very old that had come back into that average timeline because they've been associated with either a FEMA project or a CERP project, and had been out there for a year or 2 years. So once those were completed, that's driving the average down, and then we should get to a place. I don't frankly care if the backlog is 3,000 work orders. If we get to it within 2 weeks, it doesn't matter. So really what's important is staying current on the backlog that we have.
And so you, if I remember the slide right, forgive me if I don't, you think by the end of the year, you're going to be at 550 days. I think you said by the end of the year. And if that's correct, how much longer to get to 4 weeks?
Well, we're at 550 days now.
Today,
That's where we
okay,
are now. So the goal is to get down, it'll probably be somewhere between 200 and 300 work orders would be my guess if I had to put a gut feel to it.
Would you be there at the end of the year? Or?
Yeah, I think we should be. I think we should be at around 200 to 300 work orders. That's the goal. And again, we've had a lot of work orders come in, but the important piece is getting down to 30 days or less on average. That's where I really want to see us at. I think we can achieve it. It's going to depend on resources, weather, and the like, but I want us to get to 30 days by end of year.
And is the root cause mostly because of the age of the infrastructure? Because, you know, you just keep putting money at it and it just, what are we solving for? We're just fixing it at that place and then it's coming up somewhere else down the street? Is that?
For the water leaks and such, yeah, so that's where we want to get to eventually. And I think the Sewage and Water Board has done a really good job of being reactive for a very long time. I think we do it well, and I think we have. But where we really need to get to in the next 5 to 10 years is proactive. It needs to be similar to the SERP program. When you look at the sewer backlog, it's a couple hundred work orders. It says 300 there, but I think it's more like 250. It's a couple hundred work orders. I don't really see a whole lot of complaints. When sewer backs up, people do get very upset very quickly, and rightfully so. But that SERP program has really proactively gone out, done assessments like Rick and his team have done with the catch basins. And then when you're able to do those assessments and then do larger scale capital projects, it proactively fixes things. That's where we need to get to with water, is doing full block replacements.
Karen, so after the West Power Complex, I think we should be pushing for water main replacement. I think there's 600 million. Because not only is that gonna stop all these leaks, it's gonna, when we have to build a new water treatment plant, it's gonna, that's right. You're not gonna have to ask for this size, you're gonna need, so it's that to me is very critical, is getting the water main replaced.
You're absolutely right.
Probably
as unglamorous as it is, it's a direct correlation to the amount of money I'll have to spend on the water treatment plant. And we were talking about saltwater intrusion. Yeah. Every gallon I don't have to dilute, or treat is a gallon I don't have to dilute. So getting to that place of having a large-scale capital program on the water side, because you're exactly right. What happens with these older pipes is we'll fix a joint, and then it'll increase pressure in the system, and the next joint fails in a week. You'll chase it 2 or 3 times.
It's an enormous amount of money to fix it piecemeal like
Oh,
that. That's what
absolutely.
makes it.
Do y'all, I'm sorry, Elisa, you had something to say?
Yeah, I can't see you guys anymore, so I'm flying blind a little bit, but
That's Rebecca's fault, plus that.
nothing is ever Rebecca's fault. So great questions, Karen. We had talked a while back about asset management program, which, you know, asset management programs and utilities have been specifically designed to deal with exactly what we're talking about for many years. Is that, but I haven't heard anything about that lately from the Sewage and Water Board. Is that still something that's cooking in the background?
It is, great question. We're in the midst of it right now. Bob Hicks is running that program and should be finished. He's gone very deliberately group to group because we're going to be replacing our work order system and providing a new work order system that has that asset management functionality in it. So that is underway. Now that's going to be a couple of years in development because it has to replace our entire system that's there. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and it is in progress.
But then that'll hopefully get you from 90-something% reactive to maybe some, you know, proactive to maybe someday predictive maintenance.
Absolutely, that's the vision.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Elisa. Getting back to the water leak lines, do we have any idea of what that cost is going to be, or we really don't know the full extent of the problem?
It costs between $3 and $8 million a mile to replace.
I thought it was more like $1 million to $2 million.
When you figure in surface restoration for the pipe itself, it may be
1,600 times 5 is,
that's
800 million.
We're talking billions of dollars to be able to fully replace, but that's where
done next week or what?
Super Bowl's coming. I anticipate IMF revenues to be high.
So this is going to be something that's going to be piecemeal over decades.
It's a program. It's a program, and I am an optimist by my nature, right? So plus and minus. But the good news is we talked about it with the lead service line replacement program. If we're smart about how we do it and we couple federal money, of which there is a significant recurring source, with those lines, you know, to Lisa's point about looking at which lines are failing most often, and it may not be the oldest ones. It Could be ones that are from the 50s, but they're in really dynamic soils. Well, how many really old, failure-prone lines with lead surfaces are there out there? There's probably hundreds of blocks. Well, let's start with those. Let's leverage the lead service line money, and then we're not paying full freight on it. Then it may be $1 million or $2 million a mile. It's not 3 to 8. But that's what we've got to start laying out, which we're already starting to work on that over the next handful of years.
It's hard to catch up to, I hate to say it, because you can't disrupt that much at the same time, and then you get a resource allocation. One of the things that the city has to do, we have to have you have to replace so many miles per year every year. Like it's just you gotta do it. It's like almost like you should never. And for us to not do any for years is almost criminal, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same story
With his straight setting, we begged for your money too.
Thank you.
We didn't try to offset. We were asking for your money too.
Yeah, and it's gotta be both.
We're going the wrong way though.
Well, we asked for it.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be staffed and funded too.
Yeah.
You can't just in some circumstances.
Okay, if there's no other discussion on those points, is there any public comment? No, okay. Any other business that we need to, or any other comments from anyone? Okay, with that,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion to adjourn and second, all in favor? Let's go. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
On the venue.